Well, we're starting to get close to the end of our sermon series on the Minor Prophets, a sermon series we've been calling Who Are These Guys? And today, of course, we're looking at the prophet Haggai. And as we read from Haggai, you might have noticed something that makes him different from most of the other minor prophets that we've looked at. Haggai does not have a message of doom and destruction. He's not here to tell everybody change your ways or God's going to wipe you out. But Haggai has a specific message for a specific situation. But the reason Haggai's message is in the Bible is that his specific message is one that can also apply in each of our lives. But to do that, we need to know a little more about the specific situation that influenced Haggai's message. Now, Haggai, we think, gave his message in 520 BC. And that's another difference with Haggai. Scholars are pretty sure they know the exact year that Haggai spoke. And they judge that from who the kings were and what was going on, all sorts of stuff like that. At this time, there was very little left in the nation of Israel. Really all there was Judah, which included Jerusalem and a little territory around it. That was about all there was left. And Judah was part of the Persian Empire, but it still had a certain amount of independence. As often happened in Old Testament times, the kings and rulers, whoever they happened to be, really did not care that much about what the people of Israel were doing, as long as they were paying their taxes, as long as they weren't causing any trouble. And in fact, about 15 or 20 years earlier, King Cyrus had explicitly given permission to the Israelites who'd been in exile to go back to Jerusalem and go ahead and rebuild their temple, their house of God. That had been torn down and destroyed about 40 or 50 years before that. And so the people of Israel went back to Jerusalem and they were going to build the temple. And they got started and things were okay for a while, but then the people thought, we need to have places to live in ourselves. And so they started building houses. Then the people thought, we need to make sure we have enough to eat. So they started planting crops. Then the people thought, we need to make some money so we can buy the stuff that we cannot build or make for ourselves. So they started getting jobs. The rebuilding of the temple got delayed. It got delayed again. It got delayed some more. And pretty much everybody just kind of forgot about this whole rebuilding the temple thing and went about their lives. Now notice something about that. Nobody ever made a conscious decision that they were not going to rebuild the temple. In fact, if you'd asked them, most of the people probably would have said, we really do need to get back to that. We really do need to get back to rebuilding that temple. We should do that. Then they'd have gone back to going about their business again. Now, it's not that the people were lying necessarily. They really would have meant what they said. They knew on some level that they really needed to get back to rebuilding that temple. They knew that was what God wanted them to do. They knew that was the whole reason they'd been allowed to go back to Jerusalem in the first place. But the thing is that they did not let that knowledge impact their lives in any significant way. They knew rebuilding the temple was the right thing to do. They just really had no intention of actually doing it. Any of that sound familiar to anybody? I suspect it does, because how many times in our lives do we know what the right thing to do is, but we just don't have any intention of actually doing it? How many times do we know what we should do, what God wants us to do, but we just don't let that knowledge impact our lives in any significant way? I think there are a lot of times when we do pretty much what the people of Israel did. We don't make a conscious decision that we're going to disobey God. We just think, I really need to get this done first. Then we think, I really need to get that taken care of first. Then we think, I really need to take care of myself and my family first. There are a lot of times where we don't make a conscious decision to go away from God. In fact, if we were asked, we'd say, I really do need to get back to God. I need to get back to going to church. I need to get back to taking time for prayer. I need to get back to reading the Bible, all that kind of stuff. I really should do that. Then we go about our business again. Again, we know what we should do. We just don't really have much intention of actually doing it. That's pretty much where the people of Israel were. Then Haggai comes along. He sees what's going on. He tells the people what they've been doing. And then God, speaking through Haggai, basically asks the Dr. Phil question. So how's that working out for you? And the answer apparently is not very well. Because listen to what God, speaking through Haggai, says. Give careful thought to your ways. You've planted much, but you've harvested little. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but you never have your fill. You put on clothes, but are not warm. You earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. You expected much. See, it turned out to be little. What you brought home, I blew away. And why? Because of my house, which remains a ruin, while each of you is busy with his own house. The people of Israel did exactly what you and I do so often. They believed in God. They just did not trust God. They believed in God, but they believed that they needed to take care of themselves. They believed in God, but they did not put doing God's work first. They put themselves first. They took care of themselves first and only gave God any time or money or ability that they had left over after they'd done that. And it is such an easy trap to fall into. I do it all the time. We don't disobey God, at least not intentionally. We just say, well, not now, God. Not just yet. Not now. I've got all these other things I've got to do first. First, I need to get my schooling taken care of. First, I need to go get a job. First, I need to get some stuff. A house, a car, that kind of stuff. First, I need to meet somebody and get married. First, I need to start a family and make sure my family is provided for. Oh, and first, I also need to make sure I take care of myself in retirement, too. I'm going to do what you want, God. Really, really I am. Just not right now. I just have to take care of all these other things first. You know how it is, God. You understand, right? And of course, God does understand. What God understands is we're putting ourselves in first place. And putting God in second place, or maybe sometimes in third or fourth or fifth place. And usually that works out about the way it worked out for the people of Israel. Not very well. We keep thinking that after we're done with all these other things, then we'll serve God. But somehow all those other things just never quite get done. Always something else to do. Always something else that needs to be taken care of. Always something else we need to finish first. When we try to take care of our needs and our wants by ourselves, just seems like we never quite get it done. There's always more needs. There's always more wants. And not now gradually becomes not ever. May not be a conscious decision that we make. That's how it all works out. So what do? Well, first, we need to decide whether we really want to do anything. Again, that comes down to a question of trust. Do we trust God enough that if we put God first, God will take care of us? Or do we still think that we need to take care of ourselves? Because that's the first step, and really that's the most important step. Because if we're not willing to trust God enough to put God first, then none of the rest of it's going to matter. As long as we keep thinking that we're going to get around to serving God later on, as long as we keep thinking we've got to take care of ourselves first, nothing else is going to matter. Any other steps are going to be irrelevant if we don't take that first one. If we're not willing to trust God enough to put God first, we'll never take any of these other steps. So how do we trust God enough to take that first step? Well, I don't have the whole answer to that. All I can tell you really is what I try to do. And when I say this, please understand that I'm not putting myself forward here as the role model that everybody should follow. I have struggled with this as much as anybody else does. There's plenty of times I don't trust God enough. There's plenty of times I don't put God first. This is not me saying I have it all figured out and you don't, not by any stretch of the imagination. I struggle with this as much as anybody does. But here's the best way that I've found so far to try to overcome it. It's to pray. To pray consistently. To pray about this every day. To pray that God will put God's Spirit into my heart, into my soul, and into my mind, and into my life. And you know, the thing about this is that even while I'm praying that, I know I'm going to resist it. I know that if God starts putting God's Spirit in my heart, in my soul, in my mind, in my life, I'm going to resist. I'm going to put up roadblocks to that. Because I'm scared. I'm scared of what that would mean. But I pray it anyway. I pray for God to overcome my resistance, to put God's Spirit into my heart, into my soul, into my mind, into my life. I've been doing that for some time now. Has it worked? Well, not perfectly, that's for sure. You all know that. If you have any questions, you can ask Wanda. You know there are still plenty of times I put myself first. There are still plenty of times I go my own way. Still plenty of times that I don't trust God nearly enough. But I think I'm better than I used to be. Still a long way from where I should be, but I think I'm better than I used to be. And I think if we all do that, if we all pray for God to put God's Spirit into our hearts, into our souls, into our minds, into our lives, I think that we'll all be better than we used to be. I think we'll find praying that consistently every day, I think we'll find that that helps. I think we'll find that we do trust God more. I think we'll find that at least some of the time we'll stop saying that now, God. And we will put God first. Because God wants to take care of us. If we'll just get out of our own way and put God first, God will take care of us. So let's stop saying not now, God. And let's trust God now. Amen.